it as I speak to you now. But obviously, at the time, the leader of the House of Commons came to the chamber within a matter of minutes, made a statement, disclosed as much as he knew at the time. The Prime Minister was moved immediately to Downing Street. She's completely secure. The position is that we're waiting to see what will take place next. But the whole of Westminster Bridge is closed. All the roads around Westminster are closed. The House of Commons itself is in lockdown. And there are police ambulances, helicopter ambulances. I think has moved the injured policeman who was stabbed. Obviously, to hospital. We don't think he's been killed, but we do know that from what we're hearing, that the assailant has been shot dead. But I can't verify that.
So, as far as you know, there's no longer a threat inside the Houses of Parliament?
Well, I think the lockdown is a precaution, just in case there was somebody else or some other connected incident. But for practical purposes, there's an air of complete calm. There's no panic or anything like that.
Can you see what's happening outside in the area, or have you been told to keep away from the windows?
Well, you can't really keep very far away from windows, but I mean, they're next door. They're in our offices. But what we can see is an aerial film of the bridge and the cars, and the fact that a lot of people were mown down. And I understand that some of them were French, were young French students by all accounts.
All right, well, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us here on France 24. William Cash, a Conservative MP, speaking to us there from the Houses of Parliament, which are on lockdown. The Houses of Parliament, you can see there on your screen on the left, a Westminster Bridge there. As you can see, security services there, vehicles, police, ambulances at the site. We don't yet know exactly how many people were injured in these, it would seem, related incidents. So one on Westminster Bridge with reports of a car ramming into pedestrians, and then nearby a police officer stabbed by an assailant who was then shot, and several gunshots were fired. Now, this is being treated as a terrorist attack by the security officials in the UK. Still with me in the studio, Rob Parsons, our chief foreign editor. Rob, we were listening there to an MP. He's inside the Houses of Parliament. He says, though, that there's no sense of panic, that the situation is calm, and that the security services were very quick to respond. So clearly, from what he's been telling us, the UK then had been well prepared for responding quickly to such an incident.
It certainly appears like that. You know, this is a highly symbolic target, the Houses of Parliament. You couldn't pick a more symbolic target in the United Kingdom, apart from perhaps the Buckingham Palace. But that's the Houses of Parliament are the centre of government in the country. So, you know, of course they were well defended. Of course drills were in place. Unfortunately for everybody concerned, today those drills were shown to be effective. The police were very quickly on the scene. We heard from the MP that there was a journalist inside the House of Parliament at the time who witnessed the whole thing happen as it unfolded from the moment when the attacker went up to the policeman and stabbed him. Apparently it was seconds before the area was crawling with security officers. The gunman ran at some of them and was shot. We don't know whether he was shot dead or just injured. But the response was clearly quick, well rehearsed, and not just the security response, but the emergency service as well. The ambulances are very quickly on the scene, and we've heard from Duncan Woodside that helicopters have been ferrying the injured away to St George's Hospital in London as well. So clearly a pretty well rehearsed operation. And for good reason, because London, as a major capital inside Europe, knows that it's a likely target, just as Paris or Brussels or Madrid or Berlin know that they're likely targets. You have to be on alert. You have to make the assumption that an attack is likely to happen at any time and be ready for it.
Now, we're just hearing that in Scotland, where the Parliament has been debating whether or not to hold a second independence referendum, today was the second and last day of the debate. We're expecting a vote on this a little bit later, and for First Minister Nicola Sturgeon to get the green light for this second referendum. Well, that debate has now been suspended. This, of course, in response to these events in London. Let's see if we can get an update from Duncan Woodside, who's in London for us. Duncan, what's the latest?
Well, where I am here, which is about 3 miles south from the scene, there's been a helicopter which has just passed overhead, possibly carrying some of the injured to hospital. Also, I understand that St Thomas's Hospital, which is another hospital much closer to the scene, is being used as the primary centre for this trauma incident. We still don't know the full details of this attack. Details still emerging. A lot still to be clarified by the Metropolitan Police, which haven't released many details at this stage, other than that they are treating it as a terrorist incident. We still don't know whether there was one attacker or more than one attacker. There is one source of news here which is suggesting that this may have been the work of just one person, that the car careering across the bridge was driven by the same man who then tried to attack the police officer before being mowed down. So that's one possibility that's being mooted here, but certainly not confirmed by the authorities at this stage. We're still very much waiting on a full clarification of events. But it does seem that the situation is largely under control. As many people have been saying, the British authorities have been very much rehearsed in terms of responding to an event like this, but also being prepared for events like this. There are huge amounts of security deployed around the Houses of Parliament. That's always been the case, but particularly so since the Al-Qaeda threat emerged in the early 2000s. Of course, in 2005, Britain was the victim of a major attack, multi-pronged attack by Al-Qaeda, and security was stepped up further after that one. That was more than 10 years ago now, and subsequently, of course, we have seen the threat from the Islamic State emerge. So the authorities, the security forces, the police, the intelligence agencies were all very much geared towards preventing such an attack and responding very quickly once one took place, and that's very much happened this afternoon to this destination alongside Buckingham Palace. It's a major centre within the UK for tourists from all over the world, so it's no surprise that foreign nationals appear to have been caught up in this incident on Westminster Bridge. Westminster Bridge in particular is one that's very famous. The tourists flock across that bridge from one side to the Houses of Parliament on the other side to take in the view. It's quite a spectacular view. A lot of tourists around at all times. It's a very, very busy bridge, not just in terms of traffic, but on the sidewalks as well. The sidewalks are usually crammed with people at any given time of the day, really from 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning onwards as commuters are making their way to work. And then 9 o'clock or so, you have the tourists coming out all day. It's not a particularly nice day here in London. It has been raining, so that may have reduced the traffic, the passenger traffic to a degree on the bridge today. But yeah, it's a very busy area, popular with foreign nationals as well as obviously being a centre of power and work for British people.
All right, thank you very much indeed for that update from London. That was France 24's Duncan Woodside joining me. And now we can cross, or we will be crossing a little bit later, to another MP. For now, though, Rob, you've been with me here in the studio for a little while. This news breaking about an hour ago now of a security incident in London. The police now saying they're treating this as a terrorist attack, and we can now confirm that an assailant, a man who stabbed a police officer, was shot. It's not yet clear if he's injured or if he is dead. This, as Duncan was telling us, is an area where there would have been a lot of tourists. Now this area has been sealed off, an area obviously where you might expect or where the British authorities might have been preparing for an attack because, of course, it's the centre of British power.
Yes, absolutely. the centre of British power. And this raises a question, I think, about how you respond to an incident like this. We saw how in France the response following, admittedly, a much more serious attack than this one, in terms of the number of people involved and the number of people killed and injured, the response was to declare a state of emergency. Now, it's always a balance, I think, in a situation like this when you're living in the free world and you're trying to abide by the rules of democratic life, how you respond, what is the balance you get between ensuring that there's freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of assembly, and ensuring, on the other hand, the security of ordinary civilians. And this is the dilemma that Theresa May is going to face, I think, now in the days ahead. I think it's unlikely that the British government is likely to respond with a state of emergency.
Just been speaking to a lady who is on this side of the cordon, and she told me that her husband is being held in a building, and they have been told that they are unable to leave because police are extremely concerned about a suspicious package that has been seen in a vehicle just a short distance away. It's worth saying that I've been down here about 25 minutes now. Initially, we were well down the road. If you take a look where the police officers are walking, we were right down there, and then in a moment of great anxiety for the police, they started shouting for us to move up the street, and they have moved us onwards along a few hundred yards at a time, urging members of the public to step away and also asking people to leave the area as quickly as they could. Now, I'm joined by Richard Jones. Richard, if you'd be kind enough just to step in here. Richard was actually on this road when the incident began and made his way down towards the Houses of Parliament. Richard, be kind enough to explain for me, if you would, what you saw.
Well, my friend told me about the situation, and I was just up the road in Leicester Square, so I've popped down. And as I got to the end of the street next to Portcullis House, where the flashing police car lights are, I could see that there was a lot of commotion going on in the road. There was an air ambulance parked in the middle of the square, and there was police cars parked up, and as I was there, a lot of black undercover police cars turned up and parked outside the Houses of Parliament. As I was watching, I noticed that there was 6 police officers in full body tactical gear with helmets, MP5s, the full works, and they stacked up by the corner of the Houses of Parliament. After about 30 seconds of them standing there, another 25 police officers turned up in full body armour and tactical gear with guns, and then the whole group of them had decided to storm into the Houses of Parliament and started to evacuate the MPs into the black cars.
Richard, I'm going to just stop you there for a moment and hand back to the studio.
Emma, thank you. We're just receiving some breaking news from the PA News Agency. They are reporting that 1 woman has died and a number of others have been hurt, including some with catastrophic injuries, it is reported, in the incident on Westminster Bridge, and that is according to a junior doctor working at St Thomas's Hospital. So the very sad news emerging from this incident this afternoon, that 1 woman has died, a number of others have been hurt, as had been reported earlier, including some with catastrophic injuries, and that is according to a junior doctor at St Thomas's Hospital. One can only imagine the pressure under which those doctors are working at the moment. If you are just joining us, to bring you up to date with why we are on air with this unfolding story this afternoon, several people have been injured. 1 woman has died in an attack immediately outside the Houses of Parliament. A police officer has been stabbed and his alleged assailant shot by armed officers. These are the latest images we have of that corner of Westminster Square, where you can see the vehicle in question right in the centre of your screen, the dark grey vehicle which appears to have veered at some speed off the roadway there literally into the gates around the Palace of Westminster, can be seen. Alongside me here in the studio is Chris Shipp, our correspondent. Desperately sad news that we are learning already of a fatality in this terrible incident.
Yes, and it appears to confirm the reports which suggest that that car, the one you've just been talking about, the dark grey car there, may have mounted the pavement on Westminster Bridge, and that is where the death occurred that you've just been referring to. Is the cameras coming in there. There you can see the car. That's immediately underneath Big Ben. Now, just before that, there are some security barriers which would have prevented the car from continuing its journey on the pavement. It would have had to come into what is actually a bike lane there, and then it looks like it's turned and tried to hit the fence immediately in front of the House of Commons. But prior to that, Julie, it looks like some of the injuries that you've just been explaining and the confirmation of at least one death happened on the bridge. Tourists obviously are walking between the House of Commons and on the other side where there is St Thomas's Hospital, immediately on the other side of the River Thames. And that appears to be where many of the injuries and this fatality happened.
Just some further detail emerging from that immediate area around Westminster. The London Eye, which is just a stone's throw from the scenes that we're looking at now, is on lockdown still following the attack. They are currently holding all of their guests within that attraction, so one is imagining that they are on the London Eye as we speak, as the whole of this precinct around the Palace of Westminster remains on lockdown. These are the latest images then, as we can see just at the foot of Big Ben itself, stretching out now as the shot pulls back. You can see that whole area around Westminster, the Palace of Westminster, and the green before it, overlooked of course by the statue of Winston Churchill himself. And we can see there in the centre of the image not only the vehicle in question, but what it would appear would be presumably security officers moving alongside the edge of Palace Yard, as we can see that huge number of emergency vehicles and police vehicles now surrounding the whole of that corner of Victoria Bankment up towards the Palace of Westminster. Of course, just beyond that line of police vehicles, as we can see them, Westminster Bridge stretching down as it does towards St Thomas's Hospital itself and the Marriott Hotel, where it's understood some of the injured were initially treated in the immediate aftermath of this attack. But given that we've heard this very sad news from the junior doctor at St Thomas's Hospital, that hospital is now under some pressure in terms of dealing with the injured. Let's cross back now to Emma Murphy, whom we were speaking to a few moments ago on Whitehall. Emma, what is the latest you can tell us from there? You're only a few yards, of course, from Downing Street itself, and we understand that Prime Minister, having initially been taken away from Westminster, is now back in Downing Street.
That's right, that's what we understand. As you will be unsurprised to know, there is an extremely high police presence all around Downing Street and indeed around the other government buildings. I'm joined now by Francis. You were in this area when the initial alert was raised. Yes. Your partner, however, is in one of the buildings just a little further down the road.
And he's in Parliament at the moment.
He's in Parliament.
With his friends, yeah.
Tell me what he has been able to tell you about what's going on in there.
They're locked in. It's apparently shut down, which I know because I've just been evacuated out of a pub. I think he took a photograph outside. I'm not sure actually where he got the photograph from, but he understood that there'd been an incident on Westminster Bridge and that a police officer had been stabbed and that the assailant had been shot. And then recently his texts say that he's still in there, they won't let them out, and there's a suspected package in a car. So at the moment I'm just going to wait for him to come out. He's in there with the British Lionhearts in the community delivering boxing course, an exhibition, and I'm just going to wait for him to come out because I don't know how long he's going to be, but obviously it's very important for them to secure the area before they let them out.
Okay, Francis,
yeah, thank you.
Now, as we speak, you might be able to hear the helicopter above. It's been circling for the last 40 minutes or so. We've also seen a steady stream of ambulances coming up and down this road, and also a large number of police vehicles have been going in and out. This is one of the main access routes to the Houses of Parliament and close to Westminster Bridge where this incident took place. Incredibly, as the emergency services were going in and out, the changing of the guard was going on just to the left of me, quite determined to continue with some form of order as there is a great deal of confusion here in Whitehall.
For the moment, thank you for that. And I believe we have